So Amy Dias finally posted her expose of gender critical women on medium.com. This estimates that it is an 18-minute read, so I guess this is going to be a long video because I plan to read it and react to it as I go. So 18 minutes if I was just reading it. Who knows how long with reactions? I'm very sorry. Okay. She titled it Prodigal Butch. The story... Wow. First word and I already stumbled. Oh my god. Okay. Prodigal Butch. This is the story of how I was recruited into the gender critical movement, what key players I worked with, and how I left. Pride 2018 was a significant recruitment month for the gender critical movement, but most of us weren't calling it back then. It was marketed as lesbian rights to LGBT people. Theoretically, GCs, gender criticals, are critical of gender and question how trans rights impact women's rights, but the reality is no one has brought anything to the table that isn't based in bigotry. They used fear-mongering and misrepresentations to manipulate us into believing lesbians were under attack, that our own greater community was silencing and erasing us. There was non-stop criticism of the left, postmodern queer culture, and the LGBTQ plus publications and organizations. Yeah, these things are all true, Amy. We were constantly triggered. Now I realize we were used as pawns in a culture war. It was never about defending and strengthening lesbians. The goal was to divide our community. What is she talking about? If anyone's goal is to divide, it's absolutely the gender activists. Okay. She says, I reviewed approximately 30,000 screenshots I took during my time in the gender critical movement, and it was an emotionally difficult task. Why were you screenshotting everything you were doing or interacting with or talking to? That is already suspect behavior to begin with. I don't take screenshots of all of the comments on my videos or conversations I have on Twitter or Facebook, etc. Why do you have 30,000 screenshots? Anyway, today I see the propaganda for what it is, but back then my living situation was unstable. I had to auto-camp, sleep in my vehicle to make ends meet, and I'd recently had a window broken while I was showering at the gym. Meals were inconsistent, and I was usually tired, so I was vulnerable to gender-critical, fear-mongering propaganda. Those things sound awful, and it sucks that we live in a world where capitalism makes it so that people are showering at gyms and sleeping in their cars. That is awful, but gender critical women, like, it's not their fault. Anyway, she provides 3 Twitter screenshots, and she says, here are some typical examples of gender critical fear mongering that lesbians are under attack. So the tweets she posted are from one person at WildLX. It says, young lesbians, please avoid LGBT organizations, as most of them are at the moment anti-lesbian. They have as main objective support of transgenderism, which is a homophobic and misogynist ideology. If you need support, try contacting lesbian-only groups or radical feminist groups. Yeah, I agree. Another tweet from @PurpleBarnacle. Lesbians have historically been the victims of hate for exclusively being same-sex attracted. Queer politics has taken it a step further by accusing us of being hateful for being exclusively same-sex attracted. The end result is the same, conversion therapy or rape culture. Yeah, I agree. And then this other one, she says she censored it because the tweet belongs to someone who is now an ex-gender critical. It says, Happy Pride Month to lesbians who live in fear. Fear of the government, fear of men, fear of both the right and the left. It can feel like we have nowhere to call our own, even when liberals proudly display their bigotry. Life hasn't been easy for generations. Keep fighting. Yeah, I agree. So these are her examples of supposed gender-critical fear-mongering propaganda, when literally all three examples are things that happen to lesbians every single day. Okay. Compartmentalization was necessary for survival, so were distractions. I worked a full-time job while looking for better work, except for when I was to set up camp to sleep. I could forget about my situation and blend in with housed people. The gender-critical movement made me feel needed. I could put aside my struggles and transcend my hardships by answering what I thought was an ethical call to help lesbians. Yeah, that sounds wonderful, Amy. When you are struggling in your personal life to find a community of people who welcome you and make you feel supported, I think that's a good thing. There's a kernel of truth to gender-critical propaganda about lesbian erasure, though it's been greatly exaggerated. It's a fact some lesbians have been called terfs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists, or transphobic on social media simply for being gay. It happened to me on Tumblr, and that's how I was radicalized. Imagine surviving an sorry, this reading out loud has my throat tickling, and taking a drink is not helping it at all. Imagine surviving an evangelical upbringing that told you being gay was a choice, a bad choice. Then picture your friends going through a conversion therapy that attempted to retrain what genitals they like. Think about spending years of your young adult life when gay sex was illegal. Your governor made fear-mongering statements about needing to defend his citizens from gay people, and you couldn't even see a gay film at the theater without people shouting at the screen to remind you being gay was wrong. Why would people who hate gay people go to a movie about gay people and pay the money to do that? Anyway, try hard to visualize people publicly debating whether you're worthy of raising children and saying maybe you're good enough to have a dog. Yeah, gay people go through that. We know this. Now imagine seeing modern gay media and some blue ticks on Twitter saying lesbians are hateful for not liking penises. I still believe that's homophobic. There's nothing wrong with being same-sex or same-gender attracted. Both are valid and gay. No. When we're talking about gender as in gender identity, a woman attracted to a man who identifies himself as a woman, that's not a gay attraction. So no, both are not valid and gay. I want acceptance for all of us. It's still illegal to be gay in some countries, and lesbians are correctively raped for not wanting penises. We can't pretend lesbian oppression isn't real. Well, finally something Amy and I agree on. The reason I and other LGBTQ+ people ever supported gender criticals and groups like the LGB Alliance was because we were told it's not okay to be gay, as well as how to be gay. Yeah? Now I realize it wasn't an epidemic, though it was happening on some level. Has Amy ever been on the internet or to any in-person supposed LGBT space? Because if she's saying it's not an epidemic, I find it hard to believe she's ever engaged in any of these spaces, whether online or in real life, ever. Okay. Instead of trying to work with community leaders and media to reach a positive solution for everyone, I assumed the worst and betrayed my values by behaving in some anti-trans ways. Okay, that's on you though. If you're ashamed of your own behavior, that's your own fault. You're responsible for your behavior. No one else is. The truth is, I had no problem with the concept of trans lesbians before I started hanging around gender criticals. In fact, I first noticed I'm sometimes attracted to trans women as early as 2003 when I saw one during gay days at Disney's Magic Kingdom. She was the inspiration for a fictional character I wrote a few years later. There weren't that many trans women around until recently, but I had a date with one in 2015. I told myself and others it was something new. Now I'm being honest. Okay, so if you are a woman attracted to a male, there's nothing gay about that. Bisexual, maybe, but not gay. Life is complicated and quote-unquote gay has evolved to mean same-sex and same-gender attraction. No, it hasn't. There's a definition to the word gay and the word lesbian, and it does not include gender, as in gender identity. I'll expand on that more in future writing, but the bottom line is, if you're secure with your sexuality, then you don't feel the need to police others. I was insecure about some things. I was in pain, so I hurt others. That was wrong. Well, I mean, I agree with that. If you're secure, you don't need to police others. However, insisting that the words gay and lesbian have a meaning and a criteria is not policing. Like, it may be gatekeeping, and I'm fine with gatekeeping in that regard. Anyway, she says, gender critics find what makes you angry and then get you on board with more of their ideas. I'm explaining how that can happen. Hopefully people listen so we can end this cycle. Oh God. This is an overview of the key players and organizations I collaborated with in 2018 and 2019. After Ellen. Radical feminists and After Ellen had already influenced me on Tumblr in 2017 with posts and articles that made me think lesbians were under attack. Now I know that was most likely due to Jocelyn McDonald's influence as assistant editor. She's a radical feminist who supports WOLF, Women's Liberation Front, an organization that claims to be feminist but works with far-right groups who are against women and LGBT rights. Works with far-right groups. Okay. I have a problem with this. The left won't help us. The left have completely abandoned us. The left are actively working to eradicate what women are in law. So if we have to reach a hand across the aisle to some conservative groups, I personally have not done that, except for I have written a letter to my MP, my member of parliament here in Canada, and she is on the right, but she's all I've got. So for my area, there is no liberal or left-leaning representative I can reach out to. So you have to do what you have to do to be heard. So anyway, WOLF is a feminist organization, okay? Okay, to be clear, McDonald was not my recruiter. We were connected on Facebook and she supported my punk protest song in 2019, but we no longer talk. My original recruiter won't be named in this article because she's threatened to harm me if I identify her or show her avatar. Okay. She has global influence and has been mocking my story, daring me to publish. J.K. Rowling recently supported her work, which was disturbing. I wanted to tell this story, so I choose to censor her name instead. Or her name and her image. Who has J.K. Rowling recently supported? I haven't actually read her tweets in a little while. The only thing I can remember her putting out there was a quote from Andrea Dworkin, and she's dead, so clearly that's not the person who is threatening to harm Amy Dias. Is it Julie Bindel? Could be. But I doubt a woman like Julie Bindel is threatening harm, but maybe it's not even Julie Bindel. Anyway. When my After Ellen recruiter After Ellen recruiter. Oh. Well, then I was going to say Memory Joelle, but I don't think J.K. Rowling has mentioned anything by him. Anyway, okay, it doesn't matter. Oh my god. When my After Ellen recruiter connected to me on Twitter in 2018, I was open to her ideas. She love-bombed me and constantly sent me upsetting social media posts to keep me triggered. No. You idiot. I don't get this. To keep you triggered. No. How many of us who have radical feminist friends don't send each other posts or screenshots of crazy tweets that we see so that we can discuss them with each other or laugh at them? Does Amy know how friendships work? I wonder. this is very confusing to me. Like, has she had friends before? Okay, she says she roped several women into a media war and encouraged us to antagonize LGBTQ plus organizations, publications, and public figures. Coordinated targets included Diva Magazine, Pink News, Autostraddle, Juno Dawson. All of the above are severely lesbophobic, so I'm fine with taking them down. Grace Petrie, Ruth Hunt, never heard of them. Ellen Page, okay. Chase Strangio, never heard of him or her. I don't know if Chase is anyway. Rhea Butcher, well, Rhea Butcher is a whole new mess that we can get into another time. She posted a screenshot of a DM. The caption is, "My recruiter asked our international lesbian group to attack LGBT media." The quote says, "Publications that shame and dehumanize lesbians like Diva and Autostraddle need to be taken out." I literally just said that above. Take them out. "Constant shaming is extremely dangerous to the mental health of young lesbians." What's wrong with this? This is perfectly appropriate. It's notable that after Ellen's editor-in-chief, Memory Joelle, recently stepped down after Pink News published a story about my gender-critical experience. That is literally not the reason that Memory left. Amy, what are you talking about? Like, oh my god, okay. Joelle also came out in support of Donald Trump. Yeah, that's obviously something I'm not interested in. She was replaced by McDonald, and there were other changes. My first story about lesbian erasure was removed from After Ellen's site this month, but it's still archived. Well, yeah, if you're gonna speak out about them, why would they keep your work up on their website? The publication received criticism in 2018 and 2019 for posting transphobic content. They published radfem and gender-critical influencers, Julia Beck, Miranda Yarley, and Annie O'Brien. I don't think any of those three people are transphobic. Miranda Yardley himself is a transgender woman. Like, okay. I wrote a few articles for After Ellen, but my time there ended in March 2019 when Joelle and I had a falling out. Okay. That's fine. People, have falling out sometimes. Okay. Now she goes on to talk about Wolf, Women's Liberation Front. Wolf followed me on Twitter and promoted my work on social media. I never officially joined the organization, but I worked with some of its members. I thought about suing Twitter over discriminating against women's free speech, and Wolf member Natasha Chart took notice. Well, yeah, that's a good thing too. Yeah. She says, Wolf supported my work, including the TERF article I wrote. I'm beginning to think that Amy has had a seriously sad and fucked up life where people supporting her, uplifting her, and welcoming her is some bizarre, she doesn't understand it or know how to recognize a good thing, which is very sad. It's very sad that, she's saying that these women supporting her and uplifting her and encouraging her is somehow a bad thing now. What kind of life has she had if she's suspicious of support? Wow. Though I considered working with the Republicans, I didn't go through with Natasha Chart's suggestion. Now I know they're religious right people, not regular conservatives. Wolf, Natasha Chart, and Emily Zenos had been following me and supporting my work. Chart and Zenos were also in hands across the aisle. Oh, weird, I said that above. Various people suggested I join the organization, but I was dating one of Wolf's founding members, Terry Strange. The best advice she ever gave me was to avoid them. I had no idea that Terry Strange was a founding member of Wolf. I've never heard that before. I'm not saying it's not true, I just have literally never heard that before. I don't like to show my private messages, but since women involved with my story have chosen to openly mock me instead of coming out to support me, I'm forced to prove this collaboration happened. I'm showing DMs that illustrate organization and influence. My intention isn't to humiliate anyone. So then she posts 3 screenshots of DMs on Twitter with @NatashaChart. Natasha says, oh, and to clarify, the plaintiff would need to be a Wolf member for Wolf to have standing to take a direct interest, rather than weighing in as amici, A-M-I-C-I. I've never read that word. Amy says, I would appreciate it if you would ask about it while you're in DC. I truly believe this is our ticket to turning around this nightmare. Natasha, I can certainly ask about it. I might even get a chance to ask about it before I get to DC, but might forget because quite a lot is going on right now. Amy says, are you saying for Wolf to get involved, then one of its California members needs to have a case? Natasha, yes. A woman who was a member and from California could certainly ask us at any time to consider intervening. Amy, I'm looking for lawyers interested in this. Once we work that out, then we can raise costs to cover this. It would be ideal for Wolf to be involved, but if not, then simply having a California lawyer contacts to talk would help. Natasha, are you willing to talk or to work with conservatives? Amy, I have several people looking into it, but it's not a done deal until we secure a lawyer or lawyers for this. I think there could be multiple lawsuits for different categories, women, lesbians, gay men, etc. Then she says, yes, I am, to Natasha's question about conservatives. Natasha says, I do not know if you require a list, but there are conservative legal nonprofits out there who might be able to make such referrals. Okay, so I don't know really what this is supposed to showcase negatively, other than Amy herself saying, yes, I am, quote, yes, I am willing to work with conservatives. So way to tell on yourself, I guess. Julia Beck and I became friends. We considered forming a lesbian liberation party and running for president and vice president together. I mean, that's admirable, but whoa. She wanted to join my band, and we would often sing to each other over the phone to work on my music. Sometimes we flirted a little, but that ended after she got a girlfriend on her London visit. Okay, that sounds nice. She went there, London, in May 2009 to panel at Lesbians on Chairs, which was hosted by Posey Parker. I didn't approve of the event because it was an attack on almost everything I loved about lesbian culture. They promoted the harmful idea that women can choose to be lesbians and strategically deny men sex. That panel was a huge red flag. Okay, this I low-key do agree with Amy on. The Lesbians on Chairs events had some great speakers, but also there was a lot of political lesbian talk, which if you've ever listened to my videos, I am not here for that shit. So, okay, I will give Amy this one. She shared some screenshots of texts, iMessage texts with Julia Beck. Let's see. I don't think I need to read this out. This is just their screenshots of them being friendly to each other, talking about singing for each other, music that they're working on, just friendly conversational text, so I'm not going to read them. Okay, yep. Nothing negative in there. I tried to make our friendship work, in spite of her political lesbianism and Wolf. Julia was on the verge of telling me she'd been used by the movement. She'd lost a lot of friendships and was receiving weird looks around Baltimore, but Beck was so far deep into Wolf and everything Posey Parker was doing. She wasn't ready to leave them. I really hope she does one day soon. I find it hard to believe that Julia Beck was on the verge of telling me she'd been used by the movement. I find that hard to believe because this was apparently in 2019 in May, and a year and a month later Julia Beck is still involved in the movement, so okay, that seems like a bit of a lie. Now she talks about hands across the aisle. How long is this video? 24 minutes. Oh my god. The article said it was an 18-minute read, and we're already past that, and we're not even halfway done. So sorry. Oh my god. This is going to be the longest ever. Anyway, okay. She talks about hands across the aisle. An American religious right group called Hands Across the Aisle, HATA, started to reach out to me in 2018. They used points about lesbian erasure that would appeal to me. When I shared my famous TERF article with them, they already knew about it. They asked me to get in touch with Emily Zenos and Natasha Chart, who were already following me. Oh my god, excuse me. She posts 3 screenshots of tweets from the Hands Across the Aisle Twitter account. I think the display name says Hands Across the Aisle, but the actual username is biological WMN. So I wonder, like, is this the official Hands Across the Aisle Twitter account? Maybe it is. Anyway, there's 3 tweets and a screenshot of a DM that says, "Thank you, Amy. We have seen it." Her TERF article. "Many thanks for writing it. Also, we haven't been using this account for a while since it seems likely that it would be suspended. But if you wanted to reach out to us before there's some better resolution to Twitter's belief that misgendering constitutes a violent act, please feel free to be in touch with Natasha Chart or Emily Zenos." Okay, maybe this is their real Twitter account then. I didn't understand who Hands Across the Aisle was at the time, but by the end of the year I ended up joining their secret Facebook group with Posey Parker. In order to join that group, I had to pretend that I could tolerate their co-founder, Kaylee Triller Harms, who I already knew was homophobic from things she posted. 3 screenshots saying, "Here's a look into the heart of Hands Across the Aisle." The screenshots are of the Hands Across the Aisle Women in Coalition secret Facebook group, 244 members. Post from Kaylee Triller Harms that says, "Attention women and girls, your boundaries are bigotry. Do not trust your instincts, ignore your red flags, pretend the decades of bathroom crimes don't exist. Men have feelings to protect, nothing else matters." Okay, yeah, that sounds like something I would agree with. It's obviously poking fun. Another post from Emily Zenos in the group asking, "Is this for real, Posey Parker?" and asking about Posey being reported to the police. I'm not sure what these screenshots are supposed to prove other than I don't know. There's nothing wrong with these screenshots. Julia Beck, Megan Murphy, and Julia Long also worked with Hands Across the Aisle, Wolf, and Standing for Women in the US, UK, and Canada to harm LGBTQ rights. No. It's about the unfettered transgender bullshit. It has... okay. They justify working with the U.S. religious right to achieve their goals. More fucking screenshots. Julia Beck and others defend working with Hands Across the Aisle. I don't want to read all of these because there's so many. You guys, I'm going to link to the article so, you can look at them yourself. Obviously, there's overlap with international women supporting the same groups. There's a lot more content I don't have room to fit, but what I've shown has connected the dots. I'm collaborating with journalists to further expose this movement in future work. To expose what? Women who have some political differences and some political similarities working together on an issue they agree on? What's to expose about that? Then she writes about the international power lesbians. Anyone who knows anything about lesbian culture understands that a power lesbian is a lesbian influencer. My After Ellen recruiter organized an international group of lesbian leaders. Some projects happened as a result, though there were just as many plans that never materialized. This group of power lesbians kept expanding over time, and at various points it included my recruiter. It recruited my recruiter. Okay, wait a second. I think she... Okay, so it looks like she's saying my recruiter, writer Claire Huchian, but I think she means my recruiter and that they're 2 separate people. It included my recruiter, writer Claire Huchian, After Ellen co-owner Gay Chapman, New Zealand activist Claire Montague, ex-Wolf founding member Terry Strange, After Ellen co-owner Memory Joelle, Speak Up for Women New Zealand organizer Annie O'Brien, Wolf and Hands Across the Aisle member Julia Beck, Get the L Out UK members, and more. We also had one bisexual, who I'll refer to as Homoarchy. Homoarchy on Twitter. Okay, so there's a group chat screenshot with posts from Gay Chapman, Charlie Montague, some other people. Okay, group chats. Who doesn't have a group chat? My recruiter wanted me to join Charlie and Claire as the face of this lesbian activism. I was being groomed for it, and she wanted to use the fact that Jared Leto is my cousin to get us noticed. She also exploited my connection to him for the first After Ellen article I wrote. I don't even know. I think it's been debunked that they're not related. But it doesn't... Whatever. Okay. Claire, Charlie, and I were going to do a campaign and go on TV for interviews. That didn't happen because the gender critical movement ended up taking over lesbian activism. Well, I think the gender critical movement poses a threat to all women, not just lesbians. So, the gender critical movement fighting against the stuff that the trans movement is trying to eradicate is highly important because it affects all women. It affects 52% of the world's population. So if we have to focus on specifically gender critical stuff right now, which will ultimately trickle down to improve lesbians' lives, then that's fine by me. Memory and Gay, who now co-own After Ellen, first met and discussed buying the publication together in our group chat. Annie and Charlie were working on Speak Up for Women, a New Zealand organization that made an impact. As you can see, our group was influential. It evolved into other groups over time. I have to clarify something in the recent Pink News article. I never met up with my original recruiter. I did meet up with the other women in our international lesbian group, though. After I told Homoarchy about a man who harassed me at a park and ride one night, she offered to rent me a family member's cottage for about 3 months maximum. I also dated Terry for 5 months and visited her in Portland. Okay. What's bad about this? I'm confused because Amy goes, she started out talking about how she was living in her car. So and after having a bad experience, this person offered to rent her a space to get on her feet. That sounds incredibly generous and kind. My critics have made jokes about this power lesbian network, even though some of them were in it. Get the L Out UK has particularly been hypocritical over this since I was one of their own worldwide organizational chats. It's been disappointing to see so many feminists harass me for speaking truth to power. A group chat is not a powerful lesbian network. It's a group chat of women who have shared values. Again, I am beginning to think that Amy has not had a good life in regards to friendships and relationships, and she doesn't have a very good understanding of friendship and relationships and how these very normal things work. Now she's going to talk about Rosa Friedman and Julie Bindel. Okay, so then I guess that Julie Bindel is not the recruiter, because she said she wasn't going to name her. So who is it? I'll have to go look at J.K. Rowling's tweets. Anyway, most gender critical influencers, I love that she calls them influencers, it's killing me. Most gender critical influencers were angry at me in fall 2019. I thought the movement would never be reformed because they were unwilling to resolve their major problems, like working with the US religious right and ramping up homophobia and transphobia. I think when she says homophobia, I do not agree with nor support political lesbianism. But that's what she means when she's talking about homophobia. She's not talking about actual, hatred for lesbians or trying to, keep lesbians down. She's talking about the political lesbians in the movement. Transphobia, I don't agree that gender critical analysis is transphobic. A lot of LGBTQ people, like me, were distancing ourselves from the movement and making a new path. Just as I thought I would totally move on, Rosa Friedman reached out. That sounds nice. I'm just so ashamed of what gender critical has become, Rosa wrote. She respected that I wanted accountability and ethics in the movement. I also wanted to build bridges with trans activists and the LGBTQ plus media and organizations. Why, though? Okay, whatever. She then posts 3 screenshots of WhatsApp conversations with Rosa Friedman. I hope she had permission from all of these women to share their private conversations like this. We talked about how Linda Bellos and Julia Beck were being used by Wolf. Then Rosa connected me to Julie Bindel. Bindel promised me the world on our first phone call, and I wrote to Rosa about what we discussed. They both wanted to help me get settled down in the UK. Rosa said there were a lot of Scottish women interested in me. Julie said she would give approval for all my wife candidates. I saw it as an incentive to move over and work with them. What lesbian wouldn't be thrilled at the idea of having so many women into her? Well, yeah, Amy Dice is not an unattractive woman. So, what, again, the whole thing about friends. When you have friends, they tease you or give you, the little, ooh, I thought that person was staring at you, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Amy doesn't seem to have any understanding of how friendships and, friendly teasing work. And that's very sad. But, oh, wow. Anyway. Some people confused the wife detail in the Pink News story for human trafficking and wild takes like that. What was actually proposed was more in the spirit of Butch Bachelor Gender Critical Edition, hosted by Julie Bindel. I was into it at the time. Okay, I can only surmise from this that Amy Diaz does not understand jokes or sarcasm. Bindel said we would co-write some articles together, co-panel talks, and make unified statements on social media to influence the direction of the movement. I was going to stay in Julie's home, and we were looking forward to visiting Kensington Gardens so I could meet and take a walk with one of my favorite celebrity corgis. Okay, that's kind of cheesy, but that's cute. That's nice. Touristy, what you do when you're in a foreign country. Miranda Yardley wanted to join us for a night out. Okay. The LGB Alliance was following me on Twitter, and they wanted to meet with me during my trip. A lot of people wanted to see me. Everything was moving fast, and Julie seemed to be my new best friend. That's nice. Why is she so, suspicious of nice people? Rosa was going to fly me out and put me up in a hotel wherever there weren't women to host. Incredibly kind. Imagine somebody paying to fly you to the UK. Literally sign me up. Julie and I would talk about the differences between American law and the UK law at Rosa's university. She was negotiating with a Women's Place UK to frame an event around me in England. Awesome. She was also talking to For Women Scott, the late Magdalene Burns organization, about having me do a talk with Claire Huchin in Edinburgh. I didn't know that Magdalene was associated with For Women Scott either. Interesting. More screenshots of her and Rosa's private conversation where they're talking about her trip. You're a major player in the Radfem sisterhood, Rosa wrote. She said I could speak about whatever I wanted. It was all exciting. Yeah, that sounds very exciting. On November 4th, 2019, I told her I'd settled on dates for my trip. I wanted to visit the inside of Ann Lister's Shibden Hall, and I was going by the site's schedule. That sounds awesome. Rosa said feminists were planning a big conference for early February, which was a little earlier than I'd planned, but I considered it. Then Judith Green, a Women's Place UK founder who had been following me on Twitter for a while, attacked me for criticizing political lesbianism. I was also pointing out that some Get the L Out UK members love Posey Parker. They've sent me messages pledging their allegiance to Posey. Green tried to create a Radfem pylon by tagging an influential gender-critical woman like Kathleen Stock to argue with me. Okay, but as we have established, not everyone has to agree on everything at all times. So you speaking out about political lesbianism is good. I support that. But women who disagree with you can certainly say so. So I don't have a problem with that. As a lesbian, I no longer felt safe or valued at Women's Place UK events. Really? So after months, some might say years, 2017, 18, 19, of all of this, you have a negative experience in where you are challenged on something you agree with, or something you don't agree with, I mean, and suddenly you no longer feel safe. It took one it took one challenge of what you had to say and suddenly you're no longer safe. Okay. It felt like a hostile community. I told Rosa about what happened and said I still wanted to come over but didn't want to do anything with Women's Place UK. I also postponed the trip for a warmer time. A lot's happened since then, since a global pandemic. Okay, so you still want Rosa to fly you and host you and put you up for accommodations, but not for the purpose that it was agreed upon. Okay. Recently, Julie Bindel called me delusional, attacked my integrity and mental health, and gaslit me. She tried to claim we were never connected and that none of what I've written in this article is true. My receipts, which I have the right to show since she's publicly challenged me, prove Bindel is lying and being abusive toward me. I can't speak on this because I haven't seen Julie Bindel say anything about this, and she certainly could have. I personally have not seen it. I don't follow her on Twitter, so I won't speak on that. There's a lot more I could reveal about Julie Bindel, but I've already proven the points I want to make about her in this article. I will state it's interesting that such a powerful woman as herself would use her platform to attack a lesbian whistleblower instead of condemn the sexual harassment and abuse that people in her movement have thrown at me and other lesbians lately. Julie Bindel is not responsible for the actions of any other person, except for Julie Bindel. After trying to navigate a gender-critical world that said, fuck kind, I longed for kindness. Again, I know I've said this a few times already, but I don't think Amy really knows what real friendship, support, or kindness is. And also, I think it seems that she has a very specific requirement for how she wants to be treated, which is not a bad thing. Everyone should they have the right to be treated respectfully and whatever. But the fact that she said that one interaction on Twitter where she challenged political lesbianism and some other women came at her for it, that suddenly crumbled everything for her. It's like, you must be severely fragile if you can't have any criticism whatsoever come your way. She says, I didn't think I was anti-trans, but looking back over the screenshots, it's clear that I was. The whole time I had LGBTQ plus friends around the world telling me they didn't like the gender critical stuff. Okay. Yeah, people disagree on things. However, what's alarming is some friends did listen. I radicalized some people and regret it. Hopefully they'll listen to me now and find their way out of the gender critical culture. Okay. In 2019, gender critics ramped up personal attacks on trans people, and they also focused on hating pride, the rainbow, and gay and lesbian culture. It hurt to see it back then, and they've only gotten worse. Do gender criticals know what their endgame is anymore? Did they ever? All kinds of people have all kinds of views. Some of those views are shared, and some of them aren't. Amy doesn't seem to understand at all how human interaction works. It's baffling. There are definitely gender critical people who are also homophobic. There are gender critical people who are homosexuals. You can have similar viewpoints on some topics and disagree on others. It's very confusing to me that she doesn't seem to understand this. Wolf, Posey Parker, Megan Murphy, and the LGB Alliance and others derailed any possible legitimate concerns gender criticals and radical feminists had about the trans rights movement. The culture is unapologetically anti-left and has chosen to die on that hill. Well, yeah. Where are we going to go in the left? The left has abandoned us. The left won't listen to us. The left deplatforms us. The left silences us. The left have nothing to offer us. God. One of the main things that helped me leave the gender critical movement was seeing my trans friends from real life posting about their hopes, community needs, and fears. It made me feel conflicted throughout my time with gender critics. In fall of 2019, I was upset after seeing a friend describe workplace discrimination and how hard it was to find a restroom to use. I didn't want anyone to feel that way, so her words solidified my need to get off the gender critical path. You can be gender critical and be very sympathetic to people facing workplace discrimination and not feeling right in the men's room, but not being able to come into the women's room. Like, that, those are not mutually exclusive. I am a radical feminist. I am gender critical. I fully believe that people who identify as trans need spaces in which they feel safe. They need equal access to work, education, housing, freedom from discrimination. Like, gender critical women believe all of those things. Oh, this article, my God, it's... On February 1st, 2020, I was at the Seattle protest against Wolf and Megan Murphy instead of being protested at Women's Place UK across the pond. That was a wild event. I have a video about it. Feel free to watch it. I spoke to a lot of trans activists and enjoyed having physical LGBTQ plus community again, even though it was so cold that my nose sometimes ran. Oh no, poor Amy. It was cold in February. There was a lot of anti-terf sentiment with signs and chants, but I wasn't triggered. I understood the anger. Okay. I made videos about that protest and uploaded other videos a trans activist sent me. Some people in the LGBTQ plus community are still upset with me, and I have specific apologies to give a few. Most people have been forgiving and want to understand more. Like I've said before, it would take a book to fully tell my story. Well, this is apparently an 18-minute read, and you haven't said shit, really. Okay. This year I've been challenging myself. I've been talking to a lot of people in the trans community. There are some topics I won't talk about yet since I haven't had the time to properly research them, but I've been learning a lot. I want to continue working with my community to accomplish the most good. If any gender critics are reading this, I hope you pay attention to the red flags you've been seeing and find your way out. Haven't seen any. It's okay to talk about concerns with empathy. If you have a friend trying to help you get out, take that hand, because that's love. We can stop our real opponents together. Oh boy, okay, well finally we're fucking done. This article didn't say much of anything at all, other than things that occur in regular, normal human friendships that she takes as negative for some reason. Yeah, I obviously I went through the first Amy Diaz article and thought it was bullshit, but I was like, okay, like I guess we'll see what the real one, the big one that she's writing, says. And it's a whole lot of bullshit too, so okay. Good job, Amy. You have changed my perspective on nothing.